Hey guys, happy almost Thanksgiving. It's just a few days of Thanksgiving. So today I've been promising to show you my recipe for raising adult bait-sized worms, and I'm gonna give away the recipe. I actually got the recipe from another worm farmer, but I tweaked it a little bit to make it my own. So I'm gonna teach you guys how to do it. So here we go. Okay, so I use one of these tubs. I get these at Dollar Tree. I use them for a lot of things, to mix worms, to separate the worms from the castings, and you know, when I get worms in the mail, I always put them in here first. So this is what I use. I use one of these containers. It's an old yogurt container. That's the measurement. So these measurements, you do it according to how many bins you have. If you have a lot of bins, you're gonna make a lot of it. If you have just one bin, then you just make a little bit. But today I'm just going to make a small batch just for demonstration purposes. When I do this in large batches, I use one of those mortar bins and I make it in there just so I have enough for everyone. So I'm gonna I don't know why I'm laughing so much today. I think I've had too much coffee. Anyway, I'm gonna put the peat moss in here and I'm gonna show you what to do. So I took 2 of these things full of peat moss. Some people sift it and then feed it to the worms. I don't. It's just too time consuming. So I'm not going to do that. So now I'm going to take this to the sink and I'm going to wet it with warm water. I don't use cold water because it's hard on my hands. Plus, it takes longer for this to absorb cold water. So I'm going to put warm water in it and then I'll show you the consistency that we want it. We don't want it too wet, but we want it to like a wrung out sponge. You squeeze it and a couple of drops come out. So I'll bring you back. All right, so here we go. So this is my moistened peat moss. Let me see if I could get you a little lower here. So this is about the consistency. See how a couple of drops come out? More than usual. Peat moss, you gotta really mix it well because believe it or not, if I left this sitting here overnight, it's still absorbing the water. You can also use coconut coir if you want, but honestly this stuff is cheaper. And if you're gonna do this like for a lot of worms, you know, in the long run, you'll save money going this way. So, okay, another thing I do is I add sand, or you can use oyster shell, whatever you have. Usually like a palmful. This is for the grit to help them out. Then I add a palmful of lime. Dolomite lime. Make sure it doesn't have any chemicals in it, because that will control your pH and prevent your worm bin from getting sour, which is a whole mess all in itself. I'll do a separate video on that. That happened to me a couple of years ago. Oh my gosh, what a mess. Then I have chicken laying crumbles, chicken laying mesh. It's the food that the chickens eat to fatten them up. So I took 2 handfuls of this. I'll do 2.5. And now this, you're gonna mix this all up. Mix it up. Mix it up. Smells kind of weird, but anyway, let me explain this to you. This food is to fatten your worms when you have adult worms that have the clitellum. This is not to feed for your little hatchlings. They call them wisps, little baby worms that just hatched. Do not feed this to them. This is to fatten your worms up if you want to get them bait size. That's another thing I want to talk to you guys about. So some people get annoyed, and I see this on comments all the time on Facebook and everything, that people who are selling worms put a picture on their website of a big fat worm, and then when they get the worms, they're like this big. So the reason for that is the big fat worm is probably from their breeder stock. And then the ones that you get are, you know, the babies or the younger worms. And you know what? It's okay. They're not cheating you. They're not doing anything. Those younger worms, with this, if you put them to eat this, they'll fatten up real fast, and they grow fast. So it's okay to do that. They're not deceiving you. They just want you to have a picture of like a more clear worm so you could actually see what it is. Now, when I put the pictures on my website of my worms, I'm just going to put the pictures of the worms, whether they're big, fat, you know, I don't know. They're going to be mine though. And when you get worms from me, they're probably going to be bed run. Maybe I'll sift them, or maybe I'll just sell them in their own bedding, because their own bedding has all the living organisms in it. And I bought worms like that, and actually my worms did really, really good. But they'll be healthy. But you know, I'm all about the realness. I don't hide things. I tell it like it is. So there's one more ingredient that I'm going to add, and I will show you. Next thing I add are alfalfa pellets. But what I do with the alfalfa, is I put it in a cup and I put warm water in it, and when it absorbs the water, it breaks up, and then I add it to the mix, and I'll bring that back when I have it. Okay, well, they're taking longer to break up than I wanted. Usually I'll just soak them in water and leave them, and it'll break up, or I can put them through my chopper, or you could buy this stuff already crumbled. But I bought the pellets like this because it was just so much cheaper to get in a 50-pound bag. But anyway, I'm just going to put it in here, and the worms are going to eat it anyway. All right. This alfalfa, by the way, is like the food that the horses eat. And since I live in a farming community, we have like Tractor Supply, which I'm sure a lot of you have. We have a lot of farm stores around here. It's very easy to get. So the consistency is nice. The moisture is perfect. Never over wet this, because it can rot on you, and we don't want that. So now I'm going to bring one of my breeder bins over, and I'm going to show you how I feed them and what I actually do with my breeders. All right, this is a bin of red wigglers that I have. I cover it with plastic, but I always make sure that there's not plastic like covering all the edges like this, because then they'll suffocate. So you don't need that happening. So, oh look, if you see up close, let's see if you could see it. There's little babies. See the little ones? They're so cute. Anyway, I'm gonna remove this. Oh my gosh, I know I had a lot of eggs that hatched in here. That's a good sign. So this is my red wiggler breeder bin. Now, if you can see, look at the red wigglers. See, they're not massive. So when you see that big picture and you think you're gonna get that, you're probably gonna get this, which is okay. This is how it's done. So before I feed them, I give this bin a good mix to get air in there. Air is one of the most important factors in keeping a worm bin healthy, because if there's no air, the gases that develop in here will make your bin go sour, and you'll get something, your worms will get something called protein poisoning, and that'll kill them. It's horrible. I'll see if I can insert a picture. One of my old pictures. This happened to me like years ago, because I didn't know what I was doing, and you don't want that happening. So the reason we don't mix that food in here is because they could get protein poisoning. It could ferment in a bad way. So this is what I do with my breeders. I mix the bin. Now I don't do this all the time, because breeders, they breed better if you don't disturb them. That's why you keep the bin not on a huge wet side, not on the dry side, on a medium. Because if you don't get air in there and it's over wet, it's gonna rot and it's gonna be bad. And you know, these are a lot of mistakes that beginner worm farmers make, and that's okay, because I've committed every mistake there is to do, and I learned from my mistakes, and that's why I like teaching you guys, so you don't do the same things I do. So this is what I do. I do this like every 3 feedings or so. So now, look how good they're doing, guys. They are so healthy, these worms. So when I sell my worms, these are the ones that you're gonna get. You're gonna get babies. You're gonna get adults. I don't even know if I'm gonna sift out the eggs. I just might let them go with you. All right, so now what I do is I take one of my cups, or I take a fistful of the food, and I go like this in the middle. And I just leave it. I don't wet it. I don't do anything because this already has a lot of moisture and the bedding has a lot of moisture. So now I just leave it. If I'm using newspaper or cartons or whatever, I put it on top. This is already moist. This is what I love about these egg carton things. When you wet them, they hold water like really well, so they stay moist. There are so many babies. I can't believe it. Even though we don't feed this to babies, if they've hatched in here, oh well. They're like too tiny for me to even pick out because I'll hurt them. Look at that, they're tiny. So anyway, we're gonna cover that. And since this was with them, well, I'll leave it up. I'm just gonna take the plastic and recover it, and this bin is done. So what I do now is I take the bin, I put it back, I push it all the way back, and I move these forward because I know that these I still have to feed them. And I do that with all of them. I push them, pull them a little forward so that I know that I have not fed them, and the ones I feed go back. I usually start at the bottom and work my way up, but today I just picked that one just to show you. And these are all the red wigglers, and this is how you get bait-sized worms. Next, it's going to be the Euros and then the African Nightcrawlers. Let's feed one of each. I'm going to bring a Euro bin now. Look at this, I'm getting all dirty. All right, so I got the European Nightcrawlers here. Look at that, as you can see, they love to eat paper. This is another one of their egg cartons. Oh wow, I got a lot of babies in here too. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Look at that. Hope you could see them. They're tiny. So here are the Euros. So we're gonna just fluff this up and get my little worms. So same thing with my Euros. They're looking good. Now I don't have that many in here, so I'm gonna take a smaller amount of food. Go like this. Pop the bin on. Paper. And they're ready to go. Next will be the African Nightcrawlers. I wanted to show you this European Nightcrawler bin. It is loaded with cocoons. Look at that. So when you disturb the bin less, they reproduce more. That's been my experience. This is for my breeders, when I mess with them a lot and I mix them every day, they don't reproduce as much as I want. Look, here's a cluster of cocoons. They're like, there's like hundreds in here. Hundreds. So I still found a little bit of food. I'm not gonna mix it in. I'm just gonna, wow, there's so many cocoons. And they're starting to hatch because I see the babies, yay. So I'm just gonna put it back on the surface. And I'm just gonna take my special food and just put a little bit, like that. And then we're gonna put them right back. All right, so I'm bringing you here to the African Nightcrawlers. These are the big ones. They love cardboard. These guys eat more cardboard than all my worms. I mean, look, you can tell. Look what they do to it. All right, I remove the paper. They love paper. African Nightcrawlers are carbon eaters. So let's see how they're doing. Ooh, oh boy. There's so many. Look at them. Nice looking worms. These are the ones that part of my breeding cycle that I'm hoping to sell. Because honestly, African Nightcrawlers, they're big worms. But the babies are little, and you know, you got to take your time and fatten them up. But they are a good composting worm. The only difference is they can't tolerate cold. So you have to keep these guys indoors. They just won't do well. They'll die, honestly. They can't tolerate, I think, anything below like 55 or 60. I have a finished basement. My basement's on the cool side, but it's actually okay. My husband just opened up the vent in the room here to let the heat in. So we're just mixing them up. I see cocoons. Not as many as I expected to see. But anyway, with these guys, it's the same routine as the others. You just give them a mix, and then you spread it all out. I don't even know what this was. So let's get a handful, because we got a lot of them in here. Okay, we cover them up. Now this paper that they have, if it's on the dry side, I have my little sprayer here, and it's just plain water. I just wet it a little bit, just to keep it moist. And I don't have to wet the edges because it's the moisture level is nice. So we're putting them back. Let me do another one with you. This is the African Nightcrawlers. I mean, these worms, like, they just impress me. They're impressive. Look at that. They're awesome. Let's give it a good mix. Now you notice the edges here are a little on the dry side. So just mix it all in. Even though the dampness in this is not bad. Not bad at all. Let's get some good air in there. Yeah, protein poisoning, it's horrible. There's other names for it. It's sour crop and string of pearls, because you'll notice that your worm will be, you know, the worm, and then it'll be pinched in several parts of the body. It'll look like a string of pearls. And, you know, I think it happens to every worm farmer at least once in their lifetime. A lot of worm farmers won't tell you that, but, you know, I keep it real, and it does happen. That's why you have to just, when you're a worm farmer, or even when you're breeding worms as a hobby, you really gotta, like, stay on top of it. And check on them, you know, because I don't know about you all, but I really care about my worms. I want them to be healthy and happy so that I could get them to you guys, and then I could continue to enjoy them. So they're gonna have their food. They've eaten 3 of these already. Remember that African Nightcrawlers, they love carbon. They also love, I've given them leaves, like fall leaves, and they like that too. Oh, look at this little baby. Let me see. It's tiny. Just gonna put him over here. Holy guacamole. Look at the size of this worm. Wow. He's big. All right. I want to show you my red Wiggler Nursery. So this is a bigger bin. This bin is the type that you put under your bed and put like wrapping paper in it. It just works perfect. So I'm going to roll the paper back and you can see them. Now I'm not going to mix this bin because, as you can see, I have food in here. And if I mix it in, remember we talked about it going sour, but you can see some of these worms, what they look like. They are really gorgeous. Now these are the ones you probably receive in the mail, and it's okay. The red Wiggler, Eisenia fetida, is the smallest worm with the biggest appetite. These guys, I keep these in my kitchen, in my tower, because I cook a lot and they will devour all the scraps. So let me see if there's some down here that you can see them down here. So I'm not going to disturb this bin. So here, what I do is when they become adults here, then I move them to the breeder bins. And that'll be a whole nother video. I'm going to show you how to do that. And that's something that a lot of people won't show you either. But anyway, I'm going to leave them alone, and I'm going to cover them back up so they're doing well. Now, once they're done with that food, then I'll mix the whole bin again and then feed them again. But since they're doing a good job, I'm going to leave them alone. So now I'm going to get ready to do my other ones. So that's the gist of it, guys. That's how you raise bait-sized worms. Now, the original recipe comes from Mimi's Worm Farm. She's the lady that is one of my affiliates, and you can go on her website. If you go through my link, of course, I'll get a percentage of the sale, obviously. But she's a really sweet lady, and even though I'm gonna sell my own worms, I still promote hers because I know that she's a nice lady and she's very honest, and we've talked privately and we've exchanged ideas. She's been doing this a long time, and so have I. But besides the alfalfa, it's her original recipe, and that's how she raises them. So I started doing it, and my worms absolutely love it. Except she doesn't add the alfalfa, I do, because I've added alfalfa to my worm bins. Surface only, remember, this is not to be mixed in, and the worms actually love it. So go fatten your worms. Let's see, I'm on Instagram now, so you can find me, and on Facebook, and you know, my email is there. If you do this and you start seeing results, email me pictures. I would love to see pictures. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you enjoy all the food you make and your families. Please be safe out there. Don't drink and drive. And I'll see you guys next time.